We're going to be exploring some data of U.S. roller coasters in the online tool CodeApp for statistical analysis. And we're going to explore age group and top speed as our first variables. We're going to add mean, median, standard deviation, and box plots. We're also going to add mean and median here in the table for easier viewing of the numbers. And you can see by the graph there's not a whole lot of difference between the mean and median. But there is a little bit of a difference for the recent coasters. As you can see here, there's nearly a 2 mile per hour difference. The reason for that is most likely these outliers. The median is typically better for calculating a measure of center. If there are outliers, it's just by chance that this one with the extreme outlier, they're nearly the same here. But the question of whether the top speeds are different between these categories can be answered by looking at the measure of center alone, which, as you can see, they increase steadily by a pretty good bit, almost 10 miles per hour each time. Also, you can go even further and examine the box plots. There's some overlap, but there's also much more of the box plot over here to the right in each category. There's also the standard deviation, one standard deviation from the mean. These ranges are increasing in top speed pretty drastically. As you increase in the newness or decrease the age of the coaster, the top speed apparently increases. So now we're going to add a second graph with CodeApp. We're going to be exploring top speed along with the type of material, wood or steel. And we're going to see if there's a difference in the speeds. To the naked eye, it appears that there may not be much of a difference. With the measurements on the graph, though, the difference in measure of center becomes more apparent. It's not that far. For example, the median here is 55, median here is 60, but it's still a difference. This data is much more spread out, so it's possible that if you were to randomly choose a steel coaster, that it may be over here somewhere actually, whereas the wooden would likely be in this area, one standard deviation, or in the box plot, or in this blue area here. There is, you can see Q1, the first quartile is exactly the same, 50 miles per hour, but Q3 increases from 60 to 70, showing a pretty big difference there in the middle 50%. So it could be argued either way, whether there is a significant difference in the top speed. It could be said there is, or it could be said, well, you could get some over here. So maybe maybe that would be arguable, but it appears, in my opinion, that there is a significant difference between the top speeds of the steel and wooden coasters. So now we're going to explore this data again and see if there is we're going to see what a typical top speed would be. Now you could just choose one of the measures of center. The median, for example, is 50. The box plot goes from 45 to 55 as a range. But much more than 50% of the data is within 1 standard deviation of the mean here. And that range might be the best way to guess a likely typical top speed for a random coaster in the US. Would be to put it in this range, make your guess in this range, which would be from 39.33 miles per hour to 59.49 miles per hour. Now we're going to go back and examine the other data of interest, the older coasters. And using the same logic, we could, once again choose a value, just the value of the measure of center. But it would be much better to choose the range, whereas in this case it would be 49.23 miles per hour to 82.87 miles per hour. So that would be what I would do if I was going to guess a typical top speed, would be to use a one standard deviation to the left and right. So now we're going to enter some data in the newest coasters category for another coaster, and it's called Extreme. It's a steel coaster, so you can see the data here, but it's a steel coaster. It's made in 2007, and top speed is 37.3. So we're going to add that to our graphs. We're going to click on it to examine that one in particular. So we're going to see if that changed much. So it's over here, so it's possible it changed it some. But if you look at the mean and median, when you're talking about the change in them, it's not very much. For example, the mean in the newest coasters changed from 66.05 to 65.38. The standard deviation changed from 16.82 to 17.19. So those are very slight differences. And it could be said that it did not change. It's clear that there is still an increase in the speeds of these coasters, in my opinion. The range, the question of the typical top speed of the newest coasters, the range of the standard deviation would only change to 48.19 to 82.57, from 49.23 to 82.87. So those are very slight. That's a very slight change. So that really doesn't change the answer of what a guess for a typical top speed would be in this category. And in the steel coasters, the mean changed. Here's the dot right here. The mean changed only from 60.63 to 60.39. The standard deviation changed from 15.51 to 15.61. And that's just not a big difference in the original values. So it could still be argued even now that the steel coasters are faster, and in my mind they are faster. So that was the presentation. Thank you for listening.